Well, Tesla's Q4 for 2021, their call just ended, and there are some pretty interesting things that came out. I think a lot of those things were expected. I'm going to make this short video to try to highlight probably not so much the things that were in the call, though I will go over a few of those things, but some things people should consider as they're looking into perhaps investing in Tesla, and things that are quite frequently overlooked that I think Wall Street is overlooking. I tend to be know enough about the stocks and those type of things to get myself in trouble, those type of things, but I look for those things that are trending or trends over not just years but decades to see what's happening. And it was very interesting in the call as different people ask questions. You have analysts asking questions about the production of the cars, what the numbers are going to be. And what I find interesting is that most of these people still do not understand what's happening. Elon was, at least on one occasion, maybe a couple of times, very frustrated as they talked about full self-driving. And so one of the things he mentioned in there is that the upside of that full self-driving, at least the revenues from that, would and could most likely dwarf what's coming in the line from the sales of the cars themselves. And so if you look at that, which most of the analysts are not really figuring in, that is absolutely huge. And we're talking $1 trillion company that has just stated that the bulk of their revenue, which we haven't talked about, from full self-driving, and then later in this year they're hoping to have I believe 80% in their best case scenario of states that will be using their car insurance. Now, the car insurance, the important thing about that is generally the profit margins when you're dealing with car manufacturers is about 5 to 10%. When you switch over to insurance, those profit margins go up 40, 50%. And if you listen to the call, there's not a lot of big drops there, but if you pay attention to what's being said, is you can see even in the future that what I feel is the bulk of the profits from Tesla are not going to be driven just from the sales of the cars, but from the full self-driving, the car insurance, and then Elon mentioned that their Optimus, a robot, which they're working on, which is going to be huge. And so let me back up just a little bit and give you my thoughts on Tesla. The interesting thing I think about this is, again, I don't follow a lot of stocks. I'm very selective in the stocks that I pick. And so years ago, this is about 22 years ago, I had an investment made in NVIDIA. That was the stock that I followed because I've been in software development for 30 years. And so in particular, game development software where we're dealing with graphics cards and doing those type of things. And had you made only a $10,000 investment in NVIDIA and held it to this day, that investment would have yielded, I think the numbers are right, about $7 million. And NVIDIA, in my opinion, is not even going to be able to touch where Tesla is going to be in the next 10 to 20 years. So let's dial back when the internet was in its infancy, back in the mid-90s. I was back there sending most of my work from New York City to my employer, who I contracted for, over a modem. And so as the internet came online, you had to be very selective, and because you really had no choice as to the information that was available, because most companies, news outlets, did not have their information online. But the thing that I remember as I worked for multiple companies, whether it was Electronic Arts, Sony, Claim Entertainment, Iguana, all of these, is they would have different financial investors that would come in. And I remember watching CNN, most of the financial channels online, or excuse me, on TV, about this new company that was coming up that was called Amazon. And I see a parallel happening here. The big difference is that we have everything that we need in order to discern pretty much the future of this company and what's going to go forward. Back then, when Amazon would be talked about by Wall Street, again, these financial investors that different companies would send in would be that Amazon couldn't possibly be a success. Barnes & Noble was going to destroy them. There was Walden Books as well. And the reason being is that they would state the numbers. They would say Amazon has to sell X amount of billion of books in order to become profitable. Well, they were very short-sighted, as we all know now, and everything that you can possibly think of is being sold on Amazon. And literally 100% of those people that I heard for a decade were wrong. And I see the exact same thing happening here. All these bears talking about Tesla are just not seeing what's the future. Again, let's roll back to the Q4 earnings call that we just finished up, where Elon expressed a little bit of frustration saying, look, I don't think you guys understand this. This is possibly the greatest software development that the world has ever seen. Now take that into context from somebody who I would consider a genius, not to bet against what Elon's talking about. And so I'm completely ecstatic about the future of Tesla. And again, don't take my word for it. I'm not a financial advisor to tell people what they should buy or when they should buy those type of things. But having worked in the slot game industry, where we have to deal with odds, gambling, all those type of things, one thing that I would consider is, if you're going to invest in a stock, do just that. And that investment doesn't mean make an investment for a week or a month or a year. We're talking minimum of 2, 5, 10 years out. And with the information that they keep giving us, I think if you go back to the call and you heard some of the things that they mentioned, just kind of passively glazed over, was that Tesla is still expecting to grow their revenues just on their car side by 50%. And depending upon the supply chain issues and other things, they threw out a number of 200, 300% that were possible dependent upon different factors. And so I'm making this video specifically for those people who may not be able to listen to a stock analyst and break down all the things that they're saying. There's a lot of really good channels out there. I'll give a shout out to there's one that I like to listen to, Solving the Money Problem, and his thinking is right down the same road that I have, though I believe he has far better knowledge of how the stock market works. I tend, again, to look at the trends and look at those external things, because as you look at the ICE manufacturers, the internal combustion engine manufacturers right now, they're just barely hopping in the game. But when you look at Tesla, who's already been in it for 10 years, and you can Google Sandy Munro, who's the expert with cars, saying that Tesla's got a 10-year lead. I mean, this is astonishing. This is an opportunity for people to buy into a stock, even at its current price. I believe it closed around $930 a day, maybe it was $920 a day, that in 5 to 10 years could be 15, 20 times or even more that investment. I expect them fully to the stock to go up to, my guess is somewhere in the mid, 1,500, somewhere around there. But I do believe that the stock will split again. And it will continue, as stocks that split tend to continue to split. So again, for the layman that doesn't really have the time to kind of sit down, I would say, take the time, look at some of these different people who are analyzing the stock. And I don't mean the Wall Street analysts. The reason I say that is because when you look at Kramer off of, I think he's on CNBC, he's already admitted that he has a big stake in Ford. And in my opinion, most of those ice makers, the internal combustion engine manufacturers, are going out of business in the next 10 years. Now, why would I say that? The reason being is because when you look at GM, you look at Ford and all the other car manufacturers, they have a huge amount of models of cars out there that they still have to manufacture parts for to sustain those cars. They've got their feet so embedded into that old technology, which they're 10 years behind, that there's just no way they can catch up. If you saw the news just a week or two ago, Apple's kind of pushed their car aside because they just cannot set up the supply lines, all these type of things fast enough. I'm sure they'll still go ahead with it, but again, I see Tesla not only dominating this, I don't even think there's a close second place. And going back to Sandy Munro, who's the expert in this, he's already stated that if we look at this EV sector, the Tesla, it's like a 100-yard dash. Tesla's at yard 99 and everyone else is at the starting line. And the other suggestion I would have for those people that are doing research into this is to look at those ice makers, the Fords, the GMs, the Chryslers, and so forth, Volkswagen, and ask yourself, what other technologies do they have that they're drawing from? Okay? What other liabilities do they have? Do they have these huge dealerships that are worldwide? Where are their cars being manufactured? Tesla now has the Fremont factory. They've got their factory in Austin, which Elon said is already outputting cars, but it's not ramped up fully. They've got their Berlin. They've got the Shanghai one going on. And they said by end of year, they will probably announce other companies. So they are positioned not just in the manufacture of these cars at the highest quality that we've seen. And I know there's those people who will say, well, look at Lucid. Lucid's got this incredible car. Yeah, they've got an incredible car that's, $175,000. What would Tesla do with that type of car? That's not the market that they're into. But if they wanted to compete with Lucid on a $175,000 car, Tesla would blow them out of the water, in my opinion. And so just a few thoughts to think about. Tesla is drawing from company SpaceX. These companies are almost fully integrated. If you look up Joe Justice's YouTube channel, he used to work at Tesla. He said if you have an employee badge, you can literally walk into all these different companies. And that's where I think the footing of Tesla literally destroys every other car manufacturer. Space company, they got the Boring Company, they're involved in their solar energy, and the list just goes on and on. And then as we look at the people coming out of, the engineers coming out of MIT and all the other top schools, I think it's somewhere in the 90% of those people all want to work at Tesla. So this is, to me, is about as big a slam dunk as you could possibly have. Again, I just wanted to throw out a quick video from my perspective as I'm one of those people, again, that wants to see the forest and doesn't want to get clouded up by the trees. But once you understand the forest, the entire scope of this thing, I actually think the cars are going to be a small part of it, and Tesla will literally branch into everything. And even the other car makers that survive and are able to start producing these cars, they're going to literally be using Tesla to buy their things from. Much like, Apple uses Samsung to purchase their screens from and some other components. So, hope you enjoyed this. Hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, any comments, I'd love to hear about it. Are you going to be looking into investing into the stock in Tesla? Are you going to be buying on the cars? Let me know down in the comments if that's something that you're going to be planning to do. And then I would actually throw another challenge out there, and that is when you're at work or you go outside, when you're around your family, just walk up to somebody and say, hey, you know what? I'm thinking of purchasing an electric vehicle. Do you know what's the first manufacturer do you think that comes to mind when you think of electric vehicle? And I'll guarantee that 9 times out of 10, it's going to be Tesla, which is another amazing thing since they haven't spent a nickel on advertising. But thanks for stopping by. Listen to me rant a little bit about it, but I'd like you to save this video and be able to refer back to it in 5 or 10 years and see where we sit. But I think it's a slam dunk. If you're thinking about Tesla, in my opinion, it's balls to the walls. Get what you can and do it now, because even at $930, this stock is priced unbelievably low. And I say that with great emphasis. So, all right, see you later. Bye.